And now here's Elizabeth with a little bit of sport.
This is football. Enfield Town, I'm afraid to say, suffered a setback in their hopes of qualifying for the Ryman Premier Division playoffs on Tuesday night when they were beaten 3-1 at high-flying Tunbridge Angels. Despite falling behind to a Sonny Miles goal, Town competed well in the first half and deservedly got back on level terms before the interval through Corey Whiteley. But the second period was a completely different story as the third-place hosts took control of the match, with Luke Bluden scoring twice to ensure that they secured the win. Cockfosters produced what manager Dean Barker felt was one of their best performances of the season on Tuesday night, as they secured a 2-0 victory at home to high-flying Wembley in the Spartan Premier Division. Having been without a match at the weekend, Cockfosters took their game to their visitors from the start, and goals from the returning Ben Andreas and Kieran Azamudu Saki, his first for the club, deservedly secured all 3 points.
Boxing. Chris Evangelou is targeting victory when he steps into the ring for the first time in nearly 18 months on Saturday night. The 29-year-old welterweight from Enfield hasn't fought since suffering a broken hand while beating Zoran Švec in September 2014. But after several aborted comebacks, Evangelou will finally make his return to action this weekend in a 4-round bout against Northern Ireland's James Gorman at York Hall in Bethnal Green, and the Enfield man can't wait for the fight to begin. Evangelou won his first 9 fights after turning professional in 2009, before suffering 3 successive defeats, but he got his career back on track with a trio of victories prior to his injury-enforced spell on the sidelines.
And now for some rugby woes. Saracens' struggles during the current international period continued on Saturday when they were beaten 22-15 at home by Northampton in the Aviva Premiership. Having started the season so strongly, Sarries' form has faltered badly in recent weeks as a combination of international call-ups, injury and suspension have seen the spine ripped out of the side. The hosts, who are still top of the table, did battle well in this encounter and remained in contention throughout, but rarely looked like scoring a try, and eventually had to settle for a losing bonus point for their efforts, leaving them with just 1 win from their past 4 matches. Saracens will make history on Saturday when they take part in the first Premiership match ever to be played outside of the United Kingdom, making the trip to New York for an away clash against basement side London Irish at 8 p.m. Enfield Ignation's 3-match winning streak came to an end in disappointing fashion on Saturday as they were beaten 17-3 at home by Harpenden in Rugby Union's London Division 2 North East. The visitors were forced to pay the price for a dreadful start, which saw them concede 17 points inside the first 35 minutes, courtesy of 2 converted tries and a penalty. Enfield Ignation's next match is at home to HAC on March the 19th.
Hockey. Southgate suffered a potentially fatal blow in their bid to be crowned champions of the Men's Conference East of the English Hockey League on Saturday, as they lost 2-1 at home to West Herts to surrender top spot in the table with just 1 match remaining. A goal from Sam Mee on 17 minutes put the hosts ahead, but they fell away in the second period as Shea O'Sullivan and Max Webster scored to give West Herts the points. The defeat saw Southgate fall 2 points behind new leaders Richmond heading into the final day of the regular season on Sunday, needing to beat Oxted and hope that Richmond slip up at third place Sevenoaks if they're to claim the title and secure a place in the promotion playoffs. Meanwhile, Southgate ladies enjoyed a resounding 7-2 win at Tulse Hill and Dulwich in Division 1 of the South League on Saturday. Now, I'd just like to draw your attention to the fact that this article about hockey was written on World Women's Day, and it's comprised of 3 paragraphs on a team of hockey players who were men who lost, and 1 paragraph about a team of hockey players who were women who actually won. Interesting, isn't it?
Very, very interesting. This is a rather unfortunate story. A father said he was disgusted to find rat droppings and chewed egg cartons in his local supermarket. Mustafa Aydin was shopping in the Edmonton branch of Asda with his children on Saturday when he saw evidence of the rodents. The 41-year-old said, "I shop there every week and I buy my eggs from that section and I won't be shopping there anymore." Rats carry infections, and if they're around fresh food like eggs, that can't be healthy. I was very surprised to see it and disgusted. It's like they're playing with your health. I tried to get a member of staff, but there was no one around. It was like they didn't care. It's never the tidiest supermarket, but this is a new low. Mr. Aydin said that his two children, who are aged 11 and 5, were also revolted by what they saw, and that they had been the ones to notice the signs of rodents in the first place. As the spokesperson, Natalie Chandler said, "The health and safety of our stores is of paramount importance to us. As soon as we became aware that we had an uninvited guest, we worked with our contractors to quickly evict the visitor."
Enfield's own Superman is in training for his 295th marathon, which he'll complete on the iconic route through the streets of London, as he hopes to clock up 300 by his 60th birthday next year. John Wallace, who runs marathons in the costume of the comic book superhero, competed in his first London race in 1986, after a friend bet him £5 that he couldn't complete the 26.2-mile route, and he's never looked back, with a stash of medals to prove it. Since then, he's clocked up 7,702.8 miles on 294 marathon routes around the world, and hundreds more on training runs, raising more than £58,700 for charities. He's run in New York, Boston, Amsterdam, Stockholm, Paris and Athens, and says one of his highlights was competing on the Everest Marathon around the base camp of the world's highest mountain in 1993. "Everest was the most memorable," said John. "I'll never see Everest again. We spent 8 weeks up there acclimatizing." Despite the altitude, he completed the route while enjoying breathtaking scenery in 8 hours, 56 minutes and 28 seconds. John, a school caretaker who has worn out dozens of running trainers over the years, added, "When I did 43 marathons in 1 year, I got through 6 pairs of trainers. I've also got through 6 Superman costumes over the years." Mr. Wallace of Connaught Avenue is hoping to raise £2,000 for the North London Hospice to provide care for terminally ill people in Enfield, Barnet and Haringey. He said, "I turned 59 this year. London will be my 295th marathon, and I've raised £58,700 for different charities, including cancer research and asthma research." His wife Marion also ran the London Marathon in 1986. John trains throughout the year and heads to Hampstead Heath for regular 4-mile runs. He's a member of the 100 Marathon Club and says that he loves clocking up the miles, as well as enjoying the reaction of the crowds as he passes in his distinctive outfit. An experienced marathon man who used to run with the Edmonton Running Club, he offered tips for first-time runners getting ready for this year's challenge in London, which is taking place on Sunday, 24th of April. "Listen to your body, stay hydrated, and enjoy the occasion," he said.
The next piece is a report by Rachel Russell. As someone who spends Saturday watching Netflix, I had a slight feeling of dread about spending my weekend flying through the air on a zip wire. However, when I was invited for an adventure day out with my colleagues on Saturday at the Go Ape in Trent Park, I jumped at the chance. Before we began the treetop adventure, we met instructor David, who made us repeat the Go Ape mantra to stay attached, to make sure we always stayed clipped onto the wires to prevent falling. The second obstacle course involved climbing a never-ending rope ladder before walking across a tightrope to practice what it felt like to hang mid-air with only a harness for support. The feeling of exhilaration after the first zip wire did not last long after, forgetting to land gracefully on my feet and dropping with a thud to the ground. I picked myself up amid the sounds of laughter and realised there were another 3 assault courses to go, each more challenging than the last, and reaching heights up to 16 metres. Arms aching and legs like jelly, I pushed on, knowing I had plenty of support from my colleagues below. After climbing up the trees, we had to balance on shaky wooden beams and walk across rickety bridges before each zip-wire task that involved racing each other on the skateboard zip or soaring through the air on the Tarzan swing. The biggest zip wire was saved for last, giving you a view of the whole park while travelling 120 metres along the air.
A secretive campaign group has been formed to try and persuade Enfield Council not to make cuts to youth services. Save Enfield Youth Services has been established in response to the decision to make £1.7 million of savings by cutting after-school clubs, life skill courses and services offering advice on putting together CVs and interview techniques. The group numbers around 70 people who wish to remain anonymous until they've gathered more supporters, as many work for the Council's youth services. The group's leader, who calls himself Pied Piper, said the primary aim of the group is to stall the process of the service reductions and persuade the Council to start a public consultation on the matter. He said many people are unhappy with the decision to reduce the youth service, but have nowhere to channel their concerns, and feel that Enfield Council is negating its responsibilities to the young people of the borough. Handing the centres over to the charity or voluntary sector is a cop-out, as it'll only shift the responsibility and blame when targets are not met to a third party. This said, Enfield Youth Service has a long history of supporting, nurturing and providing young people with opportunities to be trained in the profession and employment over the years. This kind of service will be lost forever if the Council continues to follow the current path. While the Council does need to make savings, he said, they should avoid damaging services that are so important that are so important to many people. He said the main concern we have is that a 50-plus-year-old valued service is about to be dramatically changed, and the general public will not be aware of this until it's too late. Yes, the Council will say that it's made its intentions public by placing possible changes on the Council website, but in reality this is a way of hiding from public outcry. Does Joe Public really spend their precious time scanning Enfield Council's website? Enfield Council has a unique opportunity to think outside of the box, with other services also facing the strain of the austerity cuts. Some could merge, and some statutory services could absorb some of these services. Unfortunately, with each service head fighting to maintain their position, this concept is lost. Senior management in the Council is far too top-heavy. The whole issue and strategy of cuts to local authority services needs to be reviewed, scrutinised and overhauled, but not with the current thinking, and this ought to be done by an independent organisation that can make efficiency recommendations to save services whilst making necessary savings. Enfield Council said it needs to make £50 million worth of cuts by 2020, having already cut £118 million since 2010. They have said that no youth centres will be shut, and the statutory services such as youth offender rehabilitation will have their funding protected. A council spokesperson said there are no plans to close any youth centres. Good financial management means that these centres are well on their way to becoming self-sustainable.
An Enfield care home has been rated inadequate and placed on special measures. The Care Quality Commission has rated Hillgreen Care in Cone Road at the lowest level after a January inspection. Inspections inspectors found that Colne Road did care for patients but required improvement to provide effective services and was not caring for patients in a manner that ensured their safety. The home, which cares for 6 young adults with learning disabilities, was found to have inadequate arrangements to prevent illness and infection spreading, with staff not adhering to a cleaning schedule. Inspectors also criticised the hygiene standard, with overflowing bins and inappropriate storage of clinical waste. Other concerns included poor building maintenance and the lack of a registered senior manager, with the deputy manager having to run the home without proper support. Deborah Ivanova, Interim Deputy Chief Inspector for Adult Social Care in London and the South for the CQC, said, "It's essential that the home takes action to address the concerns we identified during our most recent inspection. The provider has a responsibility to ensure that residents are protected from the risk of harm at all times. When we are faced with a provider that is failing to deliver quality care for people using their services, our first instinct is to work with them to ensure that the services improve. We will re-inspect Colne Road to check whether sufficient improvements have been made. If sufficient improvements have not been made, and there remains a rating of inadequate for any key question or overall, we would take further action, which may include cancelling the registration of the service." Hill Green did not respond to requests for comment before the Independent went to press.
A teenage girl who lifted her first dumbbell just over a year ago is now a champion weightlifter. Isam Hassan, of 13, from Enfield Lock, who is a student at Oasis Academy in Mollison Avenue, Enfield Lock, leapt at the chance last year when her aunt suggested that she should follow in her cousin's footsteps and give the sport a go. "I wanted to try something new, and it's something that most girls don't do, so it's a bit different," Isam told the Advertiser. Since taking up the sport, she's been working hard at twice-weekly training sessions at Lee Valley Athletics Centre in Edmonton. Those hours paid off when she lifted 30 kilograms in the jerk category of the British Weightlifting Age Group Championship in Castleford, West Yorkshire. She also won the snatch competition with a lift of 27 kilograms and is now the British Under-13 champion. Martin Emsley, the head of PE at Oasis Academy, said the school was particularly proud of Isam because it's been a struggle to get teenage girls involved in sport. And does Isam worry about her body changing as she gets stronger? "No, I think it'll be good because then I will look stronger and people will be scared of me," she said. "Already I can beat one boy in my year at arm wrestling. I think it's good for women to be strong." She said that while she doesn't tell all her friends about her success, because it's just a sport, Isam revealed that her mum was thrilled when she started weightlifting. "My mum's really happy that I've taken up sport," she said. Now, with one title already under her belt, Isam has her sights set on other competitions. "My coach is talking about me competing more, and I think he'd like me to compete in the Olympics," she added. Isam admits she loves the feeling of winning and is set to ramp up her involvement with the sport when she takes on her PE GCSE next year. And after that, well, maybe Tokyo in 2020 will be calling.
Multi-million-pound flood defences to help protect 1,400 homes in Edmonton and Enfield have started operating. Building work, which began in May 2013, has been completed on the Salmons Brook scheme at a cost of £15.3 million. The measures are designed to prevent flooding from Salmons Brook and Sadler's Mill Stream, and were introduced after 192 homes were damaged in October 2000. The defences consist of a new embankment which will store water temporarily at Cheney Walk open space in Grange Park, as well as further reinforcements at Montague Road in Edmonton. At Salmons Walk, walls have been built on both banks so that water can be contained within the river. Enfield Council's Daniel Anderson said, "I'm delighted to see this innovative scheme finally officially open."
Only months after appearing in the children's chorus at English National Opera's production of Carmen, talented singer Jamie Somerville is heading back to the West End to ask for more. The 10-year-old from Enfield has been cast in the title role in a major revival of the classic musical Oliver. A keen singer since the age of 4 when he enrolled in the popular local Enfield choir Children's International Voices, Jamie is a pupil at Eversley Primary School and will be starting secondary school in the autumn with a place gained on musical aptitude. His talent for singing is also put to good use as a member of the National Youth Choir, and he's been a chorister for the day at Wells Cathedral and is singing as a solo treble in Mendelssohn's Elijah with the North London Chorus and in Puccini's Suor Angelica with Secret Opera. He is now looking forward to playing Oliver in director Jonathan Walker Cain's gritty revival of one of the most popular musicals of all time, in a dazzling in-the-round performance against the historic backdrop of the Church of St Giles. The show is in aid of Macmillan Cancer Support and runs at St Giles in the Fields, Covent Garden, from March the 29th to April the 2nd. Details can be you can get details from Endelian Theatre Company on Facebook, wegottickets.com, location/400. That's Facebook, wegottickets.com/location/400.
Bureaucrats have decided that a car can be returned to a severely disabled woman weeks after it was taken away because of cuts to her disability benefits. Enfield resident Kathy Walsh has a neurological condition, severe generalised dystonia, which causes uncontrolled spasms, and said that the car was a lifeline which gave her independence. The 48-year-old, who was born with the condition, has been on disability living allowance for 23 years. She was reassessed for the government's new personal independence payment and was told just before Christmas that she didn't meet the criteria for the advance rate mobility payment, which covers the cost of an automatic car under the Motability Scheme. However, her consultant, Professor Thomas Warner from University College Hospital London, who has been treating her for 20 years, said he had no idea how an assessor concluded that Mrs. Walsh could walk between 50 and 200 metres. He said it is clearly incorrect. At best, she can walk up to 20 metres, and on a bad day, significantly less. Mrs. Walsh, who lives in the Ridgeway, said, "They didn't even ask me to walk outside." Her case was also taken up by Enfield North MP Joan Ryan, who mentioned it during a debate at Westminster Hall last month. The Department for Work and Pensions has now reversed its decision, 3 weeks after Mrs. Walsh had returned the car. She said that she'd been told she may not get another car until April, adding, "I just want to get myself back to the way I used to be." Mrs. Walsh said the stress caused by the initial assessment had affected her health. A DWP spokeswoman said, "We encourage claimants to send us information about their condition ahead of assessment so that we can make the correct decision. As we've made clear previously, Mrs. Walsh submitted further medical evidence, which means that she's now eligible for the benefit and a mobility car." I'm very glad to be able to read this out. I'm glad for her.
And more good news. There were 1,000 reasons for a cash-strapped Enfield charity to celebrate this week after it won the £1,000 up for grabs in the competition the Advertiser had been running in connection with the mobile phone provider Vodafone. There was astonishment and delight at Enfield Women's Centre, which provides counselling and support for women going through difficult times, after staff there learned that the windfall will be coming their way. And they already know what their winnings will be spent on. Brightening up the counselling room at the centre in Derby Road, Ponders End, by replacing the old furniture and decor with new curtains, carpets, a coffee table and comfortable seats. It was a tough task for the judges to select which community project from the many nominated by our readers deserved the £1,000 being offered by Enfield's branch of Vodafone in its Community Connection Awards. But after much deliberation, the centre just had the edge. A cheque for the money was presented to chairwoman of the centre, Barbara Lefebvre, by Vodafone branch manager Mohammed Udin on Tuesday this week. The centre's director, Ginny Landon, said, "We're grateful to Vodafone and the Advertiser for their support. We'll be using the money to smarten up our counselling room and have already been looking on websites and chosen a colour scheme." The centre has been running a counselling service since 1995. Counsellors are able to speak to some of the major languages used by people in the community in Enfield and offer support in Turkish, Polish and French. The centre also runs courses providing people with help in building their confidence, dealing with anger, handling stress. "It's all about making the voice of women heard," added Mrs. Landon. Advertising publisher Alison Cruz said, "We're delighted to support charities which are doing such great work in the community." Mohammed Udin, Vodafone store manager in Enfield, added, "Enfield Women's Centre couldn't be a more worthy and deserving winner. Their work truly makes a difference to the people in our community. We're thrilled that we are able to help them."
Volunteers teamed up and grabbed their brushes to give a charity's office a makeover. A number of organisations, including Enfield Council and the Enfield Volunteer Centre, joined forces to give Mind in Enfield's headquarters in 4 Street, Edmonton, a new coat of paint. They redecorated the cafe, day room and hallway as part of the national initiative Give and Gain, which encourages and celebrates volunteering. Volunteers were also helped by students from the College of Harrogate, Enfield and North East London. In addition to the makeover of the main space at Mind, High Street chain John Lewis also donated new furniture. Dr. Ben Jabouni, Mind in Enfield Chief Executive Officer, said, "This partnership between Mind in Enfield and the organisations involved is a fantastic opportunity to work together in raising awareness of the issues of mental ill health in the borough and promote emotional well-being."
A man has been bailed after being arrested on suspicion of arson following a warehouse fire in Enfield. Crews from across North London were called to tackle the blaze at 2 a.m. on March the 1st at White Webbs Lane near Tottenham Hotspur's training ground. Police have confirmed the fire took place in a warehouse at Guy Lodge Farm and that a 35-year-old man has been arrested. He's since been bailed until early April, when he's due to attend a police station in East London. They also said that White Webbs Lane remains closed to public traffic except for those who live on the road, meaning it's now been sealed off for more than 24 hours. Eyewitnesses said that there had been explosions and flames around 100 foot high coming from the warehouse.
I will read you the title of this article. It's quite good. It's A Bit of All White. The glam rock era gave an unforgettable fashion and memorable music and captured the energy and sound of the period at Enfield's Black Barn on Saturday night, with the cover band White Light. Familiar number ones and pop anthems by T-Rex, Slade, Sweet and David Bowie will be among the songs performed by the talented four-piece when they headline at 40 Hall in 40 Hill. Every second Saturday in the month, the venue in the converted barn stages a concert showcasing established and up-and-coming bands.
Well, we've reached the end of our programme for this week. Don't forget your reader's representative, Diane de Jersey, is on 020 8805 6578 if you need any help with the talking newspaper or want to talk to her about digital. Please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet, put the cassette or memory stick into the packet and return it to us as soon as possible in readiness for the next edition. The Enfield Talking newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time. Thanks for being with us. From me, Malcolm, Elizabeth, Katherin, Patricia and Jason, goodbye.